Tribal sovereignty means that. It's sovereign. I mean, you've been given sovereignty, and you're viewed as a sovereign entity.
Okay.
And therefore, the relationship between the federal government and tribes is one between sovereign entities. Catapult the propaganda.
The truth out there.
Some alien race to come down and threaten us.
The highly funded yet unofficial government agency. Take the red pill.
The military-industrial complex.
Welcome to PID Radio. I'm Derek Gilbert.
And I would be Sharon Gilbert, and here we are in our lovely bunker on a Friday evening. Let's see, today would be June the 9th.
Of 06.
Of 06.
I'm right there with you.
Oh, honey, we are in the same time.
It's a 6 and a reverse 6 and a 6, yeah. So you didn't see that one coming this week. That's right. Listeners out there going, will these guys never stop with the numbers?
Please. I'm losing room on my wall. I'm writing them all down.
This is like
I seem to be in the middle of them all.
Back in 6th grade math class with Mr. Grismer.
By the way, if you have not yet purchased your wall size whiteboard, you need to get out there and get it because they're going fast.
That's right. That's right. And
just plan ahead. Ask yourself, how will I get this home? Because we didn't when we purchased ours.
Yeah, that was a bit of an eye-opener once we got it out to the car and realized the car was not exactly 4 foot by 8 foot on the inside.
We had been driving a van for a long time that we just sort of assumed everything that could fit into the van would fit into our little SUV.
Yeah.
No, it's one of those small SUVs. We had to, we had to strap it to the top.
Yeah.
And we had some bungee cords that weren't quite long enough, so we had to bungee them together.
It was an adventure.
An interesting drive home.
Yeah, it's there.
And it's hilly around here.
Yes. Yeah. And you don't want the aerodynamics of that you don't want to test the aerodynamics of a 4 foot by 8 foot piece of
look, they're sailing.
Yeah, steel and masonite. Well, it works well, so we got it home safely, and it's staying with the house when we move.
Oh, in fact, last summer when we thought we were moving, one of the first things on the tour with the realtor, oh, is this staying? This is a selling feature.
Yeah, the realtors thought it was really cool.
Yes, we know how hard it is to. They're not only a little pricey, but get them home.
Yeah, and but we will say, though, before we showed it to the realtor, we did erase everything that was on the board because otherwise we'd have had to kill everyone that was on the tour.
We had a different board of paranoia at that moment. Well, you know what, folks? That board has it really is very useful. So we're serious. If you want to keep track of things, it's a great way. It works for us.
Yeah. If not, of course, sidewalk chalk and a bare floor works really well, too.
Oh, yeah, just a magic marker. Be sure to draw me and all the arrows coming into
the center. That's right.
Me.
Yeah, and stacks and stacks of newspapers and lots of television sets all turned to different news channels at the same time. Yes.
Well, speaking of news,
there is a lot to cover today, and so it's a good thing it's a Friday. We can blather for the whole show.
It's a blather without Dan Rather. That's what I have to say.
Yes, and as much as we enjoy having guests on to enlighten us, because we always learn something from the people we talk with. Not Dan Rather.
He's not.
Not Cotton
I'd
Mather.
be happy if he came on, but he's not likely.
No. He's still looking for the frequency. That was an interesting story. Anyway,
I know.
Yeah, in the news, well, of course, let's start off with the tinfoil hat stuff since we started off with the whiteboard, the wall of conspiracy, the wall of paranoia. The Bilderberg Group is arriving in Ottawa. Jim Tucker of American Free Press was right on again, and they are, in fact, gathering at the Brook Street Hotel just outside Ottawa, Canada, even as we speak.
How does he do it?
He's got good sources. He's been in the business a long time, and he's an old-time. This is the way he strikes me, and I can't say that I'm intimately familiar with his work, but I've read his reports on the Bilderberg Group meetings in the past, and he strikes me as being one of those old-time journalists in the school of, say, a Mike Royko or a Jimmy Breslin, somebody like that, who just really gets out there and pounds the pavement and looks for sources and gets the story.
He looks to me like he should have been one of the lawyers in Inherit the Wind.
Clarence Darrow, yeah, or...
doesn't he have that look?
Yeah, yeah, William Jennings Bryan sort of look.
But he's going to speak with a really slow drawl.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was interviewed by Alex Jones today, so there's some audio on Alex Jones's website that you can link to and give a listen to as he reports in from site. Of course, Alex had his own adventure trying to get up there to Canada today, yesterday. Apparently, he was detained at the border by Canadian Border Patrol for, 18 hours, something like that?
A long time, and apparently they were not kind to him.
No, but...
And he does admit that he wasn't very nice back.
Yeah, it wasn't quite 18 hours. It was over about 14 hours. He was detained at about 1:45 midnight last night and was released after about 2 o'clock. Well, this would have been 2 o'clock yesterday, so I guess it was the night before. But it was about 14 hours that they were detained. But if you've listened to Alex Jones's show on the radio or streaming audio on the internet, you know that he can be a little bit abrasive. He's sort of like Rush Limbaugh on amphetamines.
Well, let me tell you, too, even...
well, I just realized how that came out. Yeah, okay.
But let me tell you, even before 9/11, flying into Canadian airports was a whole lot different than flying into U.S. airports. Mm-hmm. They were very, very persnickety about what you were bringing through and who you were. Mm. Before 9/11, when I flew up there a couple of times, and you had to say exactly who you were, and you had to have proof. As in a birth certificate.
That's really odd because we had a story that we posted to Watcher magazine several months ago about how the immigration officials in Canada were apparently more concerned with making sure that exotic dancers could actually dance by requiring them to provide film or photos than in keeping out people who were supposedly on the terror lists down here in the lower 48.
Well, when you are coming from an optometry school, you're automatically suspicious.
On the watch list.
What?
We don't want
eye scientist?
We don't want people seeing things up here. Eh? No, it's interesting stuff going on up there. Some of the people on the guest list for this year's Bilderberg is very interesting. New York Governor George Pataki is in attendance this year. Deputy Prime Minister of Iraq, Ahmad Chalabi, which is really interesting because he's the guy who was supposedly spying for Tehran a while back. Mm-hmm. This guy has more political lives than Richard Nixon. It is really interesting. Also, the heads of Coca-Cola, Credit Suisse, which is a big Swiss bank, of course. Yes. Swiss banking being very popular among this set. The Royal Bank of Canada, media bigwigs, and cabinet ministers from Spain and Greece. The Queen of Holland is expected to attend. Henry Kissinger, I'm sure, will be there. David Rockefeller is there.
And, of course, Richard Pearl.
Stephen Harper, the Prime Minister of Canada, was rumored that he would be in attendance, but the government there now denies that he will be, in fact, appearing at the meeting for the weekend.
He not appearing in this film.
Yes.
Well, I bring up Richard Pearl because that's another story on Watch Magazine today. He apparently is all over the place saying, oh, yes, the United States is already putting their chess pieces on the board for the big Iran war.
Yeah. According to Richard Pearl, in a speech that he gave in the UK at Oxford.
I had to put my glasses on.
I believe that was, at the Oxford Union.
Yes.
He outlined the Bush administration's responses to 9/11, its policies toward the Middle East, policy goals, and basically laid out that Iran is going to need to be will need to be dealt with, regardless of whether the world goes along with this or not. He said that the president of Iran, President Ahmadinejad, is a religious fanatic who believes that an Armageddon-type conflict is necessary to trigger the return of the hidden imam. Mm-hmm. We've talked about that before. Of course, I don't think he addressed what appears to be the similar Armageddonite beliefs of the dominionist Christians inside the administration.
Well, that's different.
Yeah, because
right?
we're right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the belief is that we have one carrier group in the region already and two more that are steaming toward Iran, even as we go to press this 9th of June, and that they will soon be in position to execute whatever it is the president feels is necessary.
You know, I have to say, if you look at the world stage right now and the theaters of operation, it really does feel like a big game of Risk is going on right now. Because we have war games going on in Guam, which the Chinese have been invited to watch. So there's a big carrier group down there. We just recently did Venezuela area, but more than that, we are also involved with the Brits in an operation taking place in the Crimean area. There's a huge to-do about this over there. It's so much that Bush decided not to go to Ukraine, even though we're trying to woo Ukraine to our side.
Right.
We'd like to be your friend.
Well,
but he's going to Hungary instead because Ukraine is a little dangerous right now.
It is, and Ukraine is in a very strategically significant position. And at the very top story of Watcher magazine, as we record tonight, is about the Black Sea area. And Sharon put a map of the area up there, and you can see just by looking at the map why Ukraine is so important.
Exactly, and that's why I put the map there because you know what the fact is, my geography isn't that great.
No,
so I have to assume that other people are equally handicapped as I am when it comes to world geography. I was shocked to see all of the countries that are right now just sort of starting to bubble. There's a lot of unrest going on in all that area, the whole Crimean area. Russia is mad at Georgia and Ukraine, and Hungary is, I'm not even sure what's going on there, but clearly something, because George Bush is going there. He doesn't make those travel plans for nothing.
No, that's true. Of course, Ukraine is... well, just a little historic context. You might remember a poem called The Charge of the Light Brigade. Well, that was set in the Crimean War.
During the Crimean War.
Which took place on a peninsula in the south of Ukraine, which was the Russians against a coalition of the English, French, and Spanish, if I'm not mistaken. But the Light Brigade basically charged into the Russian cannons and were cut to ribbons. And that was the poem about it. It was just about the futility of following orders without question. Ukraine
in fact, Florence Nightingale is a name that came out of the Crimean War.
Oh, okay.
Florence Nightingale was a very famous British nurse. And sort of our equivalent over here I think it was during the Civil War, was Clara Barton. But,
Molly Pitcher, that sort of a thing, well, Ukraine is strategically positioned on the Black Sea and has some very important Black Sea ports. Russia has Black Sea ports as well, but Ukraine is important as a recipient of petroleum products flowing from the Caspian across American allies, thanks to the Rose Revolution that we sponsored in Georgia, through Azerbaijan and Georgia into the Black Sea.
It's extremely important to Russia as well because, if I'm correct, this is the Black Sea ports are their only access to warm waters. Right.
And they only have a limited port access now. They, of course, lost it, a key port when Ukraine declared independence. So it is an area in which there is some struggle between the United States and Russia. And, of course, Ukraine, not being stupid, is trying to use it for their own advantage. That's why the last election between Yushchenko and I can't remember the other fellow.
I can't even remember the guy.
The former president who was sponsored by Russia was so key, and why we really in America needed to pay more attention to it, other than just the pictures that we got on the news with the people waving their orange banners. You know, the Orange Revolution.
Oh, isn't that great?
Yeah. Well, it was funded by the United States Department of State through NGOs, including those run by George Soros, which I just think is so bizarre. Here we are, the State Department funneling money through George Soros, a guy who spent $20 million of his own money to try to get the president voted out of office.
Exactly, and that's why I asked the question in the other story, is someone, throwing money around now? Because why suddenly did all of these people in Ukraine rise up and say, NATO out of here?
Yeah.
Well, it has to do with the NATO games that are going on also has to do with certain areas and these are linguistic areas, as we saw in the Bosnia-Herzegovina, Romania, it's like in Afghanistan and Iraq. These are tribal areas. And we're not talking about tribe as in they're backward. We're talking about they're clans. They're more oriented. Go back, and they're based on language and common histories and common religious beliefs. And there are certain areas within and around the Black Sea that are starting to say, you know what, we want to be sovereign. Yeah. And we've got a quote that we may try to put at the top of the show with George Bush explaining what tribal sovereignty is, but we'll have to see if we can find that. Yeah. If so, then you've enjoyed it, and
now you know why
play it over and over again.
Right, and now you know why we put it there. Well, it is interesting, though, and this struggle over what happens in Ukraine, and in fact, we tried to affect the outcome of the recent presidential election in Belarus, which is immediately north of Ukraine and also borders on Russia. The incumbent, who is more aligned with Russia than the current president in Ukraine, President Yushchenko, managed to hold off the influence coming from the West, from the United States in particular. And he flat out said there will be no Orange Revolution in Belarus. He's not a dummy, and again, I forgive me, I'm not as well-rounded as I should be. I ought to know his name, but I do know.
Should be called the Greenback Revolution.
Well, exactly right. We've been going out and throwing around dollars through organizations like the National Endowment for Democracy and USAID, which is a CIA front, basically, to affect what goes on inside other sovereign nations. And we've done it in Georgia, we did it in Ukraine, and we tried to do it in Venezuela. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I just have the feeling that we Americans would be really cheesed if we found out that, say, Russia was spending a lot of money on organizations that were presenting themselves as human rights organizations, for example, that were, in fact, doing nothing more than trying to give the election to a Democratic candidate or a Republican candidate. Oh, gee, the Chinese did that back
in what were we thinking?
1996.
He just drank too much tea.
That's right. Mr. Gore just had no idea what was going on there. So
I don't think that we're going to see greenbacks being sewn around there too much longer, because that dollar is diving.
Yeah, and the Russians are playing some part in that in a couple of ways, actually. They are shifting their foreign currency.
They're dumping dollars.
Yeah. I was trying to put it into big words there, but you hit it. Yeah, it's foreign currency reserves were the words I was looking for. But yeah, they used to hold between 70 and 75% of its foreign currency reserves in dollars, and they've scaled back to about 50% dollars, about 40% now in euros. And 10% in pounds sterling.
Right.
Which is really interesting.
That's very interesting, yeah.
Well, the UK is likely to be a very big customer of theirs for oil and gas in the future.
Huge customer.
Well, this is a big deal. And in fact, Russia's gold reserves and foreign currency reserves are growing at the rate of $5 to $6 billion. Growing at the rate of $5 to $6 billion a month. Russia went through a really bad time after the Soviet Union collapsed, and basically the Soviet Union collapsed under its own weight because it couldn't keep up with the economic warfare that was being waged against it. Karl Schwartz touched on that when we talked with him last. But what's happening now is under Vladimir Putin, they've got a leader who is strong enough to force change his way, and he's taking advantage of the vast energy resources that Russia has to make it a serious player on the international stage. They have pretty much wiped out their foreign debt. They've almost completely paid off their foreign debt.
Yeah, I think they have at least one debt that I know of yet left that was like $100 million or something.
Which is nothing.
Yeah, it is nothing. I wish the United States only owed $100 million.
Yeah, and they are... their gas and oil resources make it one of the largest producers in the world. In fact, I think they're right up there with Saudi Arabia in terms of the amount of oil that they pump, but because they use more than Saudi Arabia, they don't export nearly as much. But I read a very interesting analysis of this today, and why this was significant. Now, the fellow who wrote the article was one of the peak oil, believers in peak oil, which I think is wrong. I don't think that the world is running out of oil. I think that we're in a situation of forced or intentional shortages.
We'll have to get somebody on to talk about that during our conspiracy series.
Right. Because we've been indoctrinated from the time we were little kids to believe that oil was a
dinosaur bond.
Yeah, right. And since you don't have any dinosaurs walking around to create new oil, then it was a non-renewable resource. There's evidence to suggest that that's wrong, that it is a renewable resource, and that we are discovering more and more all the time. So where's the bottleneck coming from? Well, it's coming from lack of refining capacity. And why is that happening? Well, because it suits the guys who own the oil companies to limit the supply because it gives them power. They've got us addicted to it. We need it. We can't get it cheaply and freely like we used to, and that puts more dollars in their pockets. Well, Mr. Putin figured out that game long ago, and he's using his skill, which he developed coming up through the ranks in the KGB, to get the control over the big oil and gas companies in Russia and make them serve the nation's bidding rather than what's happening here in the United States, which is the United States is essentially serving the bidding of the guys that run the big oil companies.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the KGB, honey, because that leads right into the next story that I wanted to talk about, and that's that, the FSB, which is the current domestic intelligence agency in Russia, has been given permission to go global. That's right, folks. In essence, I really think the KGB is returning.
There was an episode of The Simpsons, and I think we've talked about this once before.
It's classic.
In which Homer almost by himself touches off a worldwide global conflict. And the Russians are having their annual May Day parade, but, since it's not the Soviet Union anymore, it's now a parade with floats, with flowers, and, peaceful things on it. Yeah. And all of a sudden, on a word, on a dime, the false fronts drop off the outside of the floats, and suddenly it's lines of tanks again, just like the old May Day parades they used to have when, Khrushchev was in charge.
Exactly.
And we just kind of get that sense about this announcement today. UPI has filed a story that the domestic intelligence agency, or security agency they call it, the FSB, will now be allowed to operate in foreign countries. In a sense, what they've done is they've just recreated the KGB.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But we're not calling it that. But notice their shield. The old double-headed phoenix.
Yep.
Our old buddy.
This is an interesting thought that just occurred to me. We've talked a bit this past week about the hand of St. John the Baptist returning to Moscow, and the veneration of the Johns, the Baptist and John the Revelator, by the Freemasons. And, of course, the double-headed eagles, the symbol of their 32nd, 33rd degree Scottish Rite Masons. Now, think back to our interviews with Eric John Phelps and Charles T. Wilcox about the influence of the Jesuit order inside the United States. Now, of course, Brother Eric believes that the Masons are just controlled by the Jesuits, tools of the Jesuits. But there are others who argue that the Masons are actually a powerful organization in and of their own right, not subject to the control of the Jesuit order. What if what we're witnessing on the global stage is a struggle for power between the Jesuit order and the Freemasons?
You've just described The Rock. The movie, The Rock. Because, and by the way, if you did not fulfill your assignment of watching The Rock and taking notes, shame on you.
Yes.
Now, add that to your list. Buy a big board. Watch The Rock.
Take notes on board about The Rock.
The Rock, I really believe, now I think there's at least one listener that disagrees with me on this, but I really believe that it's about that very thing. It's about Freemasonry and the Jesuit order, because we've got a general, of course the head of the Jesuits is a general who takes over Alcatraz, the Rock, the Rock, Peter, the church, everything built on the Rock. And his middle name is Xavier.
Yeah. Well, his first name was the general was Francis Xavier.
That's right, Francis Xavier. That's right.
And so he was one of the co-founders of the Jesuit order.
Exactly. And we've got Sean Connery's character who comes in. His name is John Patrick Mason.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got
Stanley
Stan
Goodspeed.
And Stanley
is a representative of Stone or Stone Cutter.
Exactly. Which together, as our daughter Nicole pointed out, between Stone Cutter and Connery's character Mason, you have Stone Mason.
Mm-hmm.
It's so clear because the Masons, there's a whole connection with St. Patrick that we don't have time to go into with the Masons.
Mm-hmm.
But John, of course, the Johns, and the last name Mason, how can you get around it? But there are a lot of hints, so many hints. We'll just give you one of them, and that's when he does get into, he leads them as if he's leading them along the path to enlightenment.
Right.
He's leading them in the battle against the evil Jesuits because the Jesuits are threatening the world.
Mm-hmm.
He says, as he goes through the fire to open the door to them, as he's standing in the doorway, he says,
what one of the other fellows asks him, okay, where do we go next? How do we get to the shower room? That was the next, goal in breaking into Alcatraz, the rock. And he said, there are 97 steps to the shower room. 97 degrees in the ancient and primitive rite of Memphis and Mizraim, which is a higher order of Freemasonry than the Scottish Rite. 97 degrees. So the number 33 shows up in the movie several times.
A lot. 15 shows up, which I'm still trying to figure out exactly what that number represents, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah, but on the broader scale, what it appears to represent is the struggle between Jesuits and Freemasons for the rock. And
we can't tell much more than that because we'll spoil the plot.
Exactly. So do watch it, though, and watch for the numerical references in the movie and see if you can find out anything else.
Also, there's a green, wet behind the ears government man who speaks up during a meeting, and Francis Xavier
Hummel,
thank you very much. The general says to him, "Who is that? Who am I? Who spoke?" My name is Sinclair.
Yeah.
How old are you?
33.
Well, you're too young to know anything.
Right.
In other words, the 33rd degree is nothing.
Yeah, and that's
Sinclair, of course, representing the Scottish Rite.
The Scottish Rite.
The St. Clair family.
Yeah, so a lot of symbolism in there. And again, that was something that occurred to me, and I think that's probably what triggered me thinking about this, the symbolism of the double-headed eagle representing Russia.
I think you're on
and the
something,
influence
Andy.
here with the Jesuit order and its machinations inside the United States. Especially as regards, one of the major issues we had over the last few months, which is the immigration coming across the southern border, which was a point that Eric Phelps made in our discussions, trying to bring people from a predominantly Catholic nation flooding into the United States for the purpose of converting the United States into a Roman Catholic nation.
That leads into our next story, and it's going to be along the same line. Oh, boy, are you great.
We're on a roll.
It's Gino's Steaks in Philly.
I've eaten there.
I know you have.
Yeah.
In fact, we're probably going to have Philly cheesesteaks tomorrow.
I was one of the odd ones. I actually prefer Jim's Steaks on South Street. I know Gino's and Pat's is the famous location where they have, Pat's on the one corner and Gino's on the opposite corner, and people will get very heated when they, discuss which one serves a better steak. I liked Jim's better.
And when you're really
But maybe
upset,
that's only because it was right up the street from Zipperhead, which was my kind of a cool store.
Oh, that tells us so much about you, honey. Way back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, when you're heated in a heated conversation about whether it's Gino's or Pat's, you don't have time to stop and think, am I speaking in English?
No,
but
that's true.
Up until today, when he was asked to take down the sign, the owner of Gino's had a sign up that you had to speak English in order to be served.
Yeah, and he was asked by, a local congressman in the Philadelphia area? I mean,
put my glasses back on.
Some people argue in Philadelphia that
Philadelphians don't speak English.
Don't speak English. I mean, my name in Philadelphia was a monosyllable.
Derek.
D-A-I. Okay, Derek. Would you like a glass of water?
Now, we have listeners in Philadelphia right now who are going, wait a minute.
Center City, Philadelphia was an awesome experience. I went to visit Independence Hall when I'd only been there for a few weeks, and that was an awe-inspiring thing, to realize, and then walk around Center City, Philadelphia, and realize that tavern is where Adams and Franklin and Jefferson and all of those guys sat for dinner after spending the day hashing out how this Constitution was going to look, or debating the Declaration of Independence. It was really an awesome
town. It's a great town.
For a while there, I drove through Valley Forge on my way to work every day.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievable. Moonlit night, middle of winter, fresh snowfall, deer all over, driving through there with the moon reflecting off the fresh snow at about 2 o'clock in the morning, because I was working a late night shift on the radio station then. That was the most beautiful scene that I have ever witnessed in my life. And then thinking, this is what it must have looked like that winter when Washington and his troops were out here with their feet, many of the troops with their feet wrapped in rags, desperate for anything to eat, with the British just a few miles away in Philadelphia, inside homes with fireplaces for the winter. And yet, thanks to von Steuben, who came over and was able to drill the troops into and instill some discipline, and I think, do we have that kind of fire left in America today?
I think so. I really do. I have a lot of faith in people. I have ultimate faith in the Lord, but I know exactly how you feel, because when I visited Washington, D.C., and I also felt it in Philadelphia to a certain extent, but I was with a group in Philly. I was by myself in Washington, wandering around, and when I was standing in, I'm just sort of...
Lincoln Memorial?
No, the cemetery.
Arlington.
Arlington, thank you very much.
Which is Robert E. Lee's old homestead.
Yes, exactly. You tour the home, and in fact, outside the home, there's a tomb that sits over the bodies of a number of soldiers that died there, and I wept so many times walking through that cemetery, and thinking about it now, I start to choke up. The shuttle astronauts were there. There were just so many things there that made me really proud to be an American. So you know what? If you have ever listened to us and you've heard us, talk about how we can't trust the government because of this, this, and this, and we doubt this story, don't ever doubt that we are very proud to be Americans. No. We are so proud and so patriotic. That's why we're so upset when our government lies to us.
We fly an American flag outside of our home every day. And it's because we believe in what the flag stands for.
Right.
Sadly, we, like Christians who profess to follow Jesus Christ, very often don't live up to those standards. But we do believe in those ideals. And we want to see this nation return to the ideals that were seen by the framers of the Constitution and by those who had the courage to stand up and fight when it would have been much easier to just return home, go back to their businesses, and submit meekly to King George.
Boy, King George. Speaking of King George.
I said that purposely.
Before we get any emails about our flag, because that flag to us does represent all of the people who have fought and died.
Yes.
For our freedom the freedom that we have to do this show right now, the freedom that we have to worship as we choose. All things that we take for granted, I think, here in the United States. But I do know that because it has 13 stripes, it has stars that easily could actually be pentagrams. I understand that there are many people who believe that there are occult elements in that flag, and you may well be right. But when I look at that flag, I don't see those things. I don't think about those things. I'm not brainwashed by those things. I see the blood of those people, including many of the guys that my dad served with. His ship was sunk. They were in the water for days. And he had to watch friend after friend after friend die. It was a hard thing for him to do. Praise God, my father came home. Or I wouldn't be here because I wasn't born yet. But many, many people have died. And I just, Thank you, every one of you.
Yeah. Well,
okay, that was our soapbox.
That was our soapbox. But in Philadelphia, City Council member Jim Kinney asked the owner of Geno's Steaks to take down a sign that Geno has posted saying, "This is America. When ordering, speak English." Mm-hmm. Now, at the risk of sounding, bigoted, let's just say, look, many of us have parents and grandparents, ancestors who came from other nations. Mm-hmm. My grandparents on my mother's side didn't speak English until they were 5-6 years old.
Mm-hmm. Well, your mother, she spoke German when she was really young, and she was told she couldn't speak German when she went to school. Right. It was very difficult for her.
Yeah. My father's side of the family, well, we've got a lot of English speakers going back hundreds and hundreds of years, but Geno is of Italian descent. Mm-hmm. And his ancestors, when they came to the country, had to learn to speak English in order to adapt. Again, my mother's ancestors were primarily German speakers. I do have some Swedish ancestry on my father's side. They had to learn to speak English. And again, this is within the last 150 years. So it seems, and again, please don't misunderstand and think that we are singling out one particular group or that we have any problem with immigration in this country. Only illegal immigration, and what seems to be a movement to exempting Spanish-speaking immigrants.
Exactly. The fact that English is no longer the language of the United States. It's the primary language of the United States.
When people can actually get up in public and say that a resolution in front of the United States Senate to declare that English is the official language of the United States, which was a question that we thought was settled in 1784 or thereabouts, and be accused of racism, something is very seriously wrong in this country.
Well, I saw not Geno. What's the name of the guy who runs it? Is it Geno?
I think it is.
I saw him on television.
Joseph Vento is his name. Joseph Vento.
I saw him on television today, and I think he makes a good point. He's saying the very same thing you have just said. Mm-hmm. What bothers him is that Mexican immigrants or Spanish-speaking immigrants don't seem to be required to learn English, whereas all other immigrants have had to learn English to get along. You don't see alternate translations into Vietnamese or Chinese or Italian or Finnish or any other language of vast peoples who have immigrated into the United States. However, you see alternate translations into Spanish all over the Southwest.
We even see it here in St. Louis.
Which is amazing.
And in St. Louis, I have to tell you that we don't have a high percentage of Latinos here.
We don't.
When I was running the radio station back in 89 and 90, I hired a young man from the Denver area, which does have a high Mexican population, or substantial, named Freddie Bueno. And extremely talented young kid. Brought him in. He did a fabulous job, fantastic job. And his comment to me one time was that he just found it so refreshing to be here in St. Louis because here people just thought he had a great tan. Whereas in Denver, he had problems. He ran into some problems because people had an attitude about the number of Latinos there. Right. And I will admit that coming from Chicago, I saw a lot of that too. There were racial tensions between whites and blacks, and between whites and Mexicans and Puerto Ricans, and between those groups and the blacks as well. And so there were a lot of tensions there when I grew up in the 60s and 70s. Here in St. Louis, there's no substantial Latin population, and yet you go to the ATM at the bank and it's there in English and in Spanish.
I don't understand it. Now, I can't understand why. Now, I can't understand when you get directions for your new television set, why they're in English, Spanish, and French.
Right, because Quebec does have a substantial French-speaking population.
Exactly. And these are often products that are sold worldwide.
True. And there are a lot of places in the world other than France and Quebec that speak French. A lot of places in Africa and
frankly,
Haiti.
A lot of places speak English. So I have to, we have to tip our hats, our little tinfoil hats, to all those other countries that, frankly, teach English in the first or second level.
Well, a lot of that was just necessity because the English were so bloody, empirical back in the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries.
Watch that word, honey, is considered a cuss word.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Forgive me. Yeah, the English basically imposed themselves on a lot of parts of the world back in the 17th, 18th, 19th century. So
good thing we don't.
Yeah,
as far as recommendations, let me take an aside here. Okay, we've got the whiteboard. You got to watch The Rock. There are other movies too. We're just for the weekend, get the whiteboard, watch The Rock. But here's another thing: video games. Everybody's got them. Almost everybody plays them. Almost every household has a video game player. Mm-hmm. A few of our listeners may be saying, "Oh, I don't." Well, good for you. I would say this weekend or next week especially because of Father's Day coming up, put those video games aside, turn off that television, don't even watch The Rock, don't even write on your whiteboard. Get a Risk game. Your child will learn so much about strategy, about geography, so many, your wrinkly brain activity. It's great. Derek and Nicole and two of Nicole's friends played this last weekend. Derek grew up playing Risk.
Yeah. My dad was ruthless.
And I know. He was about everything.
Yeah, Monopoly too. Yeah.
He wouldn't let you win it. If you ever actually beat him, you knew it wasn't because he took a dive. But
it wasn't until video games came out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, foosball. Didn't you beat him at foosball?
No, never had a foosball table. Electronic football, but anyway.
Nicole has played Risk a number of times. And you know what? It was a joy having those kids play with you involved. And of course, you stomped them. Well,
I stomped one, the young man that Nicole seems to like. So I just wanted him to know.
You don't want
no names.
Just in case he's listening.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I stomped one of them. But then, Nicole and the other young man ganged up on me, and I was toast. But I at least wasn't the first one out. But it was fun. I have to admit, it was fun that these 16-year-olds invited me to play and wanted me to in on the game.
But don't you think having a Risk game, if you really want your kids to learn something about politics, about what is going on in the world, you can use that opportunity to say, okay, here's where the United States has people positioned right now.
Yeah. We look at the world here and we see that even though in the Risk game they take some liberties with where things are located. It was interesting because the kids actually noticed it. See, Afghanistan is way too far north and it's way too big and
make your own map.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. So we had a lot of fun with that, and it did of course point out the value of having weighted dice, which is the way real our government tends to play the game.
And make sure when you play the Risk game that you have an area with the Bilderbergers are meeting.
Yes, yeah.
And they all wear the tinfoil hats that should come along with the game.
They ought to have a 21st century version where instead of having armies and cannons and guys on horseback, we should have like little oil derricks and guys dressed up in trench coats, and anyway.
I love it. Okay, and how many KGB do you have working for you?
That's right. Well, let's get back into that territory. Get into some of the geopolitical things going on. We noted that there seem to be some inconsistencies in the story regarding the recent demise of Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, for which we were lumped among the Moonbats by the likes of Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity. Wayne Madsen, who I often disagree with as far as his political leanings and some of his personal beliefs, but he is very perceptive and he's got some very good sources. He pointed out some things about Zarqawi's death that are worth taking note of. First of all, Zarqawi was a lieutenant, a high-level lieutenant, to a devout adherent of Wahhabi Islam. And, of course, that's Osama bin Laden. Mm-hmm. Now, Islam strictly prohibits tattoos. You are not to tattoo the body. Mm-hmm. It is said of Zarqawi, that at one point he had a tattoo on his arm, which he removed with hydrochloric acid.
Ouch.
Yes. Now, do you recall that the spokesman for the Pentagon who announced that they had identified Zarqawi's body said that he was identified by the tattoos on his body.
Mm-hmm.
This would be highly unusual for someone who is a trusted lieutenant in a strict Wahhabist sect.
He would have been questioned by the people that are supposed to have been underneath him.
Yes.
Excuse me? You have tattoos? Get out.
Yeah. That is very unusual. In addition, there was no mention of his prosthetic leg. He was supposed to have lost. Now, it may have just been an oversight.
I shouldn't laugh, but that seems like an obvious one.
Well, yeah. I mean, we knew it was him because he had a false leg. But they didn't mention that during the press conference. Now, that may have just been an oversight. But it would seem to me that if you're looking to identify somebody who's been wanted, the most wanted for 2 years in Iraq, and you know that the guy has a false leg, he supposedly lost it during a battle in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. So, that predates 2003. Mm-hmm. You'd say, we know it was him because the guy had one false leg. Mm-hmm. Instead, they said, no, he had tattoos. Well, okay. Tattoos on a guy who belongs to a religious sect that forbids tattoos.
Exactly.
That's very unusual. Now, again, it's not impossible, but it is worth noting.
He did bring up one other point, didn't he, regarding a videotape?
Well, yeah, there was another point. You may remember that Zarqawi was blamed for the beheading of Nicholas Berg. That was that horrible, horrible video that was circulating the internet.
It was horrifying to watch it. Actually, there were others that I thought were worse to watch.
Right.
That one was the first one that came out, and my apologies to anybody who may not believe this, but that video just kind of looked odd.
Well, it did in a couple of ways.
And we won't go into all that.
Right.
You can write to us and ask us what's up with that. And we may even get to that during Conspiracy Series. But anyway.
But the point that was raised about Zarqawi, who was blamed for beheading, for being the one who actually wielded the knife that took off Nicholas Berg's head, it was noted in the videotape, was wearing a gold ring on his left hand.
Which, if you know anything about...
Yeah, if you know anything about Islam, first of all, you wouldn't wear a ring on your left hand. You just wouldn't, period. But secondly, Islam forbids men from wearing jewelry and specifically forbids men from wearing jewelry of silver or gold. Mm-hmm. So you got a guy who's supposed to be Zarqawi wearing a gold ring on his left hand. It is highly unlikely.
That does seem odd.
Or very, very odd.
Well, there were other things odd about that video. And if you want to know more, you can write to us. But yeah, when that came out, and I said to you right away, there was something about that photo that they had very quickly mounted and framed.
Yeah.
For display. We just took this, 20 minutes ago.
Yeah. The press conference that was held to announce his death didn't take place very long after his body was discovered, and yet it had already been matted and framed. Mm-hmm. And Madsen, made the interesting comment that it was they must have taken it to the Baghdad equivalent of a 24-hour Kinko's.
The Green Zone Kinko's.
Yeah.
Well, that photo bothers me because if you blow it up, if you have a program at home like Photoshop that you can take it, or any viewing program and you can make it larger, take a look at it. It just looks like it's been worked over. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have that look of an original photograph. There's something that bothers me about it. The other photos that they show, and the main photo that I'm talking about, it's the one that's sort of pale. Mm-hmm. It almost looks old. Mm-hmm. And he appears to be lying in a background that looks like it's probably rubble. Mountainous or rubble. Oh, yeah. I say mountainous because
okay.
Anyway,
he was supposed to have died.
It looks like rock or something, but some sort of natural something behind him. Whereas the other photos, there appears to be a pillow behind him, as if he's on a gurney or in a bed. He looks very similar. That photo looks very similar to the other photo, as far as the features and the injuries. However, the injuries and the color, everything in the gurney photo are so robust, so fresh. Whereas the other one looks old, faded. The fresh one, yes, it looks like the same man for, the main comparisons. Mm-hmm. His mouth is slightly open. So we hear today, whereas the other one is totally shut, we hear today that when they first found him, he was still alive enough to try to get away.
Right.
So if he's lying on that rubble and they're able to take a photo of him, and he looks very gone. Mm-hmm. And on the gurney, somewhere along the line, his mouth has dropped open.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I suppose that can happen during post-mortem as the muscles, shift. But look, folks, there's something that just unsettles me about the whole thing. And, of course, the things that you brought up, that Wayne Madsen. Wayne Madsen, sorry. I was going to say Dave Madden. Oh, boy!
Oh, John Madden.
John Madden, yes. Too many people.
Of course, the fact that we're raising this just means that we're obviously raving moonbats and not to be trusted. So,
look, being in the radical center is not an easy place.
We're catching stuff.
Lampooned by both sides.
Yeah, we're catching it from both sides. We're too conservative, but we're obviously liberal moonbats at the same time. So
here's what it is. We just really. We're from Missouri, folks. Show us the evidence. We try to be discerning because that's what we are commanded to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have to stand up, if we were asked to stand up and defend this country, I like to think that we would.
Yeah.
But I want to know that it's worth defending. I want to know that what you're asking me to defend it for is not a lie.
Right. For freedom and not to protect the value of the U.S. dollar for the benefit of the oligarchs.
Exactly. One more story that I need to sneak in, and then it looks like you've got another one, too. I see that by the clock we're running. Oh, we're blathering on. Bush came out today, and he said weeks, not months.
Yeah. That seems to put a little more pressure on Ahmadinejad to make a decision.
Well, it does, really, especially when you consider June 19th, we're having that big
continuity of government exercise. Yeah.
Incontinuity.
Yeah.
Incontinence of government.
The summer solstice is on the way.
So many things getting ready to happen. It's St. John's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Summer solstice.
Yep. So it is apparent that the screws are being tightened on the Iranians, and a showdown is coming.
Well, let me tell you, it's traditional during the summer solstice to have fire.
Mm-hmm.
If that tells you anything about how a blood sacrifice is made, it's traditionally through fire on that day.
So keep that in mind. There was another story, I want to jump back to Iraq here, that was reported by the Boston Globe that I thought was very disturbing. This is also at WatcherMagazine.com today. A story reported by the Boston Globe indicates that the United States government has paid out something like $20 million over the last year to families of Iraqis who were killed. It is a custom in Iraq to pay a condolence payment or a I guess that's the best way to translate the Arabic word, which I won't try to pronounce.
Well, Saddam Hussein sent money to the families of the suicide bombers.
Right. And it is the chilling part of the story is the amount of money and the way it's increased over the last 2 years. In 2004, the U.S. military paid out $5 million to families of civilians killed by U.S. soldiers, to almost $20 million in 2005. Now, the average payment can range from several $100s for a severed limb to up to $2,500 for loss of life. Now, if $2,500 is used as the average figure, just to assume, and you divide that into the $20 million that we paid out, that's 8,000 people killed by American soldiers in 2005.
Exactly. Now, granted, not all of that money would have gone for loss of life, but still,
right?
That's a horrifying number.
And the fact that it increased by a factor of 4 over the previous year would indicate that things are getting more violent, not less.
And we are not going to pull out. We are not going to pull out.
No.
We're building that huge embassy there. We have a great big mega super base there. We're not leaving. Yeah,
regardless of which political party wins the next presidential election. Democrats, don't fool yourselves. Electing Hillary or John Edwards or whoever else might run for the nomination in 2008 is not going to change things. John Kerry wouldn't have changed anything. Al Gore certainly wouldn't have changed anything.
No.
Don't fool yourselves. So that is Edward Kennedy is pushing for an investigation into these condolence payments, but that's not going to change anything either. And as long as we're in the Middle East, might as well just mention this quickly. Hamas has called off its truce with Israel, and it means that there's likely more violence on the way in the Holy Land.
Well, I think we need to pray for the world, because the entire world seems to be sitting on a powder keg right now.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because as we sit here this Friday night, I was feeling that earlier today, and I normally don't get senses like that. I normally don't have that kind of sensitivity to, things outside the physical realm. Mm-hmm. I really don't. But I just felt almost a heaviness, which was weird because I was looking out the window at blue skies, and it was a slow day at the office, and people were laughing and joking and talking about the Cardinals game, and I just had this very strong sense that something is coming and it's going to happen soon. Mm-hmm. And of course, I'm a moonbat, so what do I know?
Excuse me. Well, I'm Mrs. Moonbat, and I love you.
I love you, sweetheart. Well, we look forward to next week. We've got investigative reporter Janet Phelan coming back, and she's going to talk about a very troubling story involving her family, and it's troubling on a couple of levels. First, because of the pain that it caused her and her mother, but also because of the implications for the rest of us, the way in which the legal system can be used to deprive people, especially those who are weak or helpless, mm-hmm. of their rights.
It's an eye-opening interview, and I'll tell you what, it was one that was tough for us to get, because one thing after another happened that seemed to be trying to stop that interview from taking place. And mm-hmm. We'll explain more about that on Tuesday. Also, the following week, we've got Jerry E. Smith talking about HAARP and weather wars. And in the very far future, well, not all that far, actually, starting probably August 1st or so, we're going to start our Genesis 6 series. For those of you who have been asking questions about what's this Nephilim stuff all about that we refer to now and again, mm-hmm. we're going to actually delve into that and try to give you some really good foundational information about that. And perhaps in September or October, we'll have to see how long the Genesis 6 series takes. But following that will be a series on Christian fiction.
Yeah, we're going to get some Christian authors and just talk about what they, what motivates them to write and what they try to accomplish. Mm-hmm. I think when you're writing from a Christian perspective, you sort of have a goal in mind more than just telling a story. I just think you can't. I don't think you can help it.
Mm-hmm. And we actually have been asked before, why is it we write fiction rather than nonfiction? Wouldn't it be simpler simply to say, this is what I want to teach you, mm-hmm. rather than couching it into a fictional setting? Well, we'll talk about that when mm-hmm. that series comes up later on this fall.
You can always talk to us via email. The email address for your comments and questions, radio@peeringintodarkness.com.
And you can always join us at the forum. We'd love to have you there. There's a seat reserved for you at peeringintodarkness.com/forum. And if you ever want to mail us something to a snail mail address, I was recently asked this, and we don't give it often enough. It's Post Office Box, mm-hmm. 656, Manchester, right. Missouri. 63011.
Yeah,
that's 656.
Yeah, it's not the post office box of the beast, but it's close enough that we can see his box.
That's right. We keep an eye on his mailbox.
That's right.
We don't take his mail for him, though. No. If he's going to show up and pick it up, he's going to have to come on his own.
Enjoy your weekend, and God save the Republic of the United States of America. Until then, until Monday, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.
Gonna step up to the microphone, say it loud and clear. A better day is coming soon to get us out of